It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh my gosh!
Hey gang, I'm Will.
And Chase is who I am, and welcome back to That's Just Whack. So, what happens when you've been playing D&D for too long?
You change groups, you find a new group, you realize that group's not quite your jam, and you be sad because you leave that group. You bring new people in, so the group just changes entirely sometimes.
And you look back at where you were 3 years ago and you realize nothing is the same as it once was, and you're playing 2E, and
there's one or two guys that you still play with every week, but it's like, man, I don't know the rest of these people that well.
And that sucks.
Oh yeah.
So, we should talk about things to make D&D more fun when you've been playing for too long. And we like to call that homebrew. A lot of times, DMs and players like to come up with their own options.
True.
Homebrew. Yeah. You say, what if there was a warlock that wasn't based off of fiends or creatures from the beyond or from the deep or whatever? What if they were...
based on cheese.
True. The cheese warlock. It could be a thing. I could go look it up. Or the garlic bread cleric. You can find a lot of options out there.
All of a sudden, I just realized how hungry I was.
So, recently, we decided to do a little bit of homebrewing ourselves. And we've been sort of on this kick for a little while, trying out some new things when we look at options. But, with as much homebrew as there is, you can get a little lost. So, today, we're going to talk about a set of homebrew we recently came up with, mainly Will himself, because he is the mastermind behind this set, all featured around fall.
It's fall, y'all.
So, get ready to take the fall with us into some of our subclasses we've made here. Below in the description should be a link, and if there isn't, we'll get that in as soon as we can. We're talking to YouTube about some things. YouTube, call us.
Susan.
Yeah.
Get your act together.
Hold up, isn't Susan leaving?
Better be.
Susan. Hold on, Susan.
So, we're going to talk about some of our favorite subclasses in this, and you can go into the link, read these for yourselves, but we're not going to read these, because reading them is boring. We're just going to talk about what our favorite parts about these are.
Right.
So, kick us off. What's first up on the list?
So, as we said, there's a PDF down below, hopefully. There are 7 subclasses. We're covering 5 because we have a paladin and a druid who really are just more of the same, if that makes sense. And to just name drop those, there's the Eclipse Veil Paladin and the Autumn Mantle Druid. Kind of your typical stuff. However, where we started to get real spicy is with the Fighter. It's football season. And you may not be into football, but I am. And this is the Fighter Gridiron Champion. For some fighters, the battlefield is for war. For other fighters, the battlefield is for football, or grid ball if you play Stardew Valley. And these are a very... you know how your fighter typically is strength-based and has athletics? This is that, but a subclass. So, for instance, you get a lot of defensive and charging and quarterback-like abilities.
Right. One of the particularly cool things about this is this puts you into the quarterback's foot shoes. Cleats.
There you go.
And what's cool about that is you might have played a high charisma fighter before that works well as a leader. Battle Masters can do this. Samurai, to an extent, can make good use of it. Most notably, the Purple Dragon Knight is a very high persuasive fighter option, but it's not exactly good. This gives you some good rallying options to boost your allies, and lets you do one of the things that's kind of weak in 5e overall, charging.
So anyway, one of the other kind of major features about this, obviously, you're the quarterback. You need to be able to call a play on the fly, call a change. You see something funky on the defensive line, you need to tell your receivers, tell your offensive lineman, communicate. Let's say now let's apply that to a battlefield. You, the fighter, see that the wizard is about to get absolutely
Consumed.
Eaten. Let's say you got 15 little goblins about to surround your wizard and just go ham on them. And this allows you to, at 7th level, just call out, "Hey, wizard, get out of there," and they can immediately use their reaction, move up their half-bird movement speed without provoking opportunity attacks from those 15 little goblins.
You're probably thinking, "Hey, that sounds a lot like that one Battlemaster maneuver that you can do." Correct.
Yeah, because that also, this really is, if you take Purple Dragon Knight and Battlemaster and put them into one, that obviously gives you a bit of opportunity to say, "Wizard, fall back behind me so I can actually help you with those 15 little goblin guys."
Right.
One of the other things that you get is early on is a defensive stance. So this lets you attempt to tackle your opponent. That can knock them prone. If you win the contest of athletics versus athletics or acrobatics versus acrobatics, you can knock them prone. You, however, are knocked prone, not knocked prone.
Right.
This obviously is very helpful for if you and the barbarian were to team up on a guy. You can just, I tackle him. Now the barbarian has advantage because he doesn't want to use reckless defense, reckless attack.
And what works really well is that this is a reaction to a creature entering a 5-foot radius around you. Meaning, if they've used some movement speed to get up to you, you knock them prone, they might not have the movement speed to get back up. Meaning, by the time it's your turn, prone, I'm here, advantage.
Yep.
Get them.
Yes, and there's a rallying cry, or it's called Team Captain, but it's a rallying cry. For 1 minute with people within your allies and within 30 feet of you can add your Constitution modifier to any attack roll or saving throw that they make. Now we said this is a very charismatic thing. If you made it more of a charismatic thing, you'd be sad you'd be having to make the choice of Constitution or Charisma. So that was made Constitution just as a mechanically it works better and is more viable at 15th level.
Right.
But we do encourage. It does make sense to be a charismatic base guy.
Right. It's like pick a soft stat, pick any soft stat. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
For this one, charisma works well.
Yeah, and then obviously there's the MVP. You can use your reaction to make an intimidation check, but you use your strength score instead of your charisma score once again. And if you win the contest, the attack that is triggering this reaction automatically misses, taken aback by your imposing presence and reputation. Basically, this is how you play Joe Kingman from the game plan in Dungeons & Dragons.
Kingman, baby! The quarterback of the Boston Rebels.
Yeah, I've seen the game plan. Great movie for everyone. But that's about all on that one.
I'll just note that I think my favorite part about the Gridiron Champion is the fact that it takes what is known in 5e as the tank fallacy and does away with it. The biggest problem in 5e is that there's very few ways to force creatures to attack you or stop creatures from attacking those around you. If you want to be in the front line to stop enemies from getting to the back, enemies can always go around you, they can go through you, take an opportunity attack or disengage, and starting right at 3rd level with that ability to knock enemies prone if they try and get past you gives you a great way to, alright, I'm going to be the front line. If they're going to try and get past me, I knock them prone. That way they can't get to the back line. They get back up and keep moving. You've wasted a lot of their movement speed. The wizard backs himself back up. So
it also makes you more of a target. You're doing all these things that helps your allies and yourself out. That's going to make your dungeon master say, I need to get rid of Joe Kingman on the battlefield. So it does make you a bit of a target. So you might want to have your Constitution high so you can take some big tanky hits. But next up, we have the Bard, the College of Marigold Memories. Obviously, Halloween. This is a derivative of Day of the Dead. So this is also a very pulls from the same idea. And of course, it is the Bard. Now you might be thinking, but isn't there a spirits bard that does kind of the same thing? Yes, but this is different. This is themed around Day of the Dead.
one of the important things that people will look at when making a character is like, you know what class you want to do, you're looking at the subclasses, but you want the subclass to fit the theme of the character. Mm-hmm. If you want to play a rock-heavy bard and you want to be dealing heavy thunder damage with your spells, going with something like Swords or Whispers doesn't really make as much sense.
True.
And in fact, there isn't really anything in 5e that works super well for that. Lore's probably your best option if you want to go rockstar kind of bard. But if you want the theming to be on point for your character, about as far apart as you can get on the scale is Spirits Bard and Marigold Memories. It's Day of the Dead themed,
Yeah.
but it does not have the same innately spooky, haunted,
True.
whatever you want to call
it more honors the dead. So, for instance, one of the main features that you get, kind of a big one, when you use Bardic Inspiration to give it to a creature, they also gain temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier, equal to your Bard level rounded down. So, if you're a 10th level Bard and you do this, you're giving them, hopefully by this point, 5 plus 5 temporary hit points of 10. Nice. It's a nice amount of temporary HP.
That's a classic Bard thing for one of your 3rd level abilities to be, how do I make Bardic Inspiration better? Temp HP coming with it.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. Works out well.
Then there's the Bridge of Memories where you get Speak with Dead once per day without using a spell slot. So let's say you need to interrogate a guy, but your party killed the guy. You can not have to expend a spell slot and just say I cast Speak with Dead. And of course, once you do that, you can talk to him and have a good conversation with the dead.
Hopefully a good conversation anyways.
The next one is kind of their big feature, their 14th level. It's the Offerenda Offering.
And I'll note, normally bards at level 14, gonna be honest, kind of fall off. It's the last time they get a subclass ability, and most of the 14th level abilities, not good.
Yeah.
Listen up, you want a bard who's really good at 14th level? Here we go.
It's the Marigold Memories. Beginning at 14th level, I'm just going to read most of this because it's a big block of text. You can perform a special song, and for the ritual lasts for 1 minute. And the allies gain advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Once per turn, when an ally within 30 feet of the offerenda hits a creature with an attack, they can deal extra necrotic damage equal to your Bardic Inspiration die. So, by this level, I believe it's still a D10 or we're talking about D12s?
You'd be D10 at this level,
but
12 comes at I think 17.
Okay, so an extra D10 of necrotic damage, pretty nice. This is another instance of another way of how you can play this. Spirits you summon are more favorable towards you, giving more detailed answers and insights like with Speak with Dead. Additionally, you have advantage on charisma checks when interacting with spirits during your offerenda. This is just more of a flavor text thing of it gives you more advantage on your charisma because you're probably pretty good at it already.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, when you cast a spell that summons a creature, that creature gains an additional amount of HP equal to your bard level. You also gain advantage on concentration checks to maintain their presence or control. So, this bard would be very nice to grab as many of the summon spells as you can.
Right. A set of my favorite spells in the game are the Tasha's summon spells. There's one for approximately every creature type. Summon Undead, Summon Aberration, Summon Fiend, and it summons a pretty solid, powerful ally fitting the level of the spell used to come alongside you. You command it to attack, to help out, whatever you want. And they last about an hour. They have some weird restrictions for the material components needed, but this bard makes for a great spirit caller.
Yeah.
So taking those summon spells, which you get access to because you get things like magical secrets, hey, this comes at level 14. At level 14, you get 2 magical secret spells. And at that point, you have access to, at best, 7th level spells, and the highest level summon spell is a 6th level spell. Perfectly timed to get you access to anything you want for those summon spells. So, it not only works well for making a good and more powerful spirit caller, because that's something that Bard doesn't really do, is be a summoner. You can get the spells, but there's not much that supports it, not like the Shepherd's Druid. But this is also a fun ability because it can be used in 2 different ways, because you can also use it for the, alright, we need to get some real answers out of this person we're talking to with Speak with Dead. This thing's going to give you that advantage on charisma checks when interacting with them. So, you can use it in a combat setting, extra necrotic damage and boosting your summons, or you can use it in a roleplay support method.
True.
And it works out really well that it's like, oh, now I have to pick and choose. Which one am I going to use today? I'm in this combat, but I know that this thing is coming up and we might need to talk to somebody who we accidentally killed.
Yeah.
Is it worth using or not? And that's always a fun thing to deal with as a character. It's like, is it the right time for this ability?
Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite class in the game.
Is
the
it
Ranger?
Oh.
Rangers, obviously, are always, not always, typically more going to be your, I'm here to deal damage. Do you have any healing spells? No. What spells do you have? Hunter's Mark. Anything else?
Zephyr Strike.
Zephyr Strike, Hunter's Mark.
Summon Beast.
Anything else? No. Don't you get 5th level spells?
Took Contra Volley.
I have Searing Smite. So, do you have any support? No. That's just Rangers stereotype.
Right. If you get weapons, you want to use those weapons
Yeah.
with spells that enhance your weapons.
Right.
It's how Rangers typically go.
Now,
But,
this is the Brewmaster Guardian,
you ready for Oktoberfest?
as I was. It's November now.
Womp womp.
So part of a short or long rest, you can create a number of special brews equal to your proficiency bonus. They are good for 24 hours, and if you drink one, you get and you regain 1d10 hit points. And then so if you can't tell, this is a support-based ranger,
Right.
which is always fun.
This is the kind of ranger that you can always take a couple of damage dealing spells, but you're going to want to balance the damage you can deal with the support you can do.
Yeah. Another great feature that you get at 3rd level, if you are an ally subjected to any condition, frightened, poisoned, any of the others in the game, you can
Any of the others?
subject to a condition.
That's crazy. Some
You can-
conditions are like paralyzed.
You can use your reaction to expend a special brew from your little stash, and in the condition, they must be within 30 feet. So if they're 35, SpaghettiOs. But this does give you an option to be like, oh, I don't want the barbarian to get paralyzed. I'm going to end that now. Just go ahead and take care of it.
Everyone who's played a support character has dealt with the, on my turn, do I want to heal the barbarian who's on low HP?
Yeah.
Do I want to fix the wizard who's under the effects of the confusion spell and is attacking us? Or do I just want to attack the enemy and try and get him to break concentration on that effect? Or hopefully kill him outright? And as much as choices are fun, it really sucks when you play with that cleric who never picks the helpful option. It's like, I'm here to heal or deal damage. Things like Lesser Restoration and Greater Restoration get continually forgotten.
Yeah.
So, what if you just had an innate ability to fix it as a reaction when it happens?
There you go.
It guarantees you have that avenue for it, and no longer are you faced with that difficult choice. Your ranger can keep attacking on his turn while still being a good support.
Hey, speaking of support, you know how rangers get that really great spell, Healing Spirit?
I remember.
At 11th level, if you use a spell like that, or any spell that can regain hit points, such as like Goodberry, any creature that regains hit points from that spell, they regain an additional 1d6 plus your Wisdom modifier and hit points back. So you use Healing Spirit, you roll the dice, and you say, I also roll this and add that too. Kind of pulls on the Life Cleric a little bit, but it's a later level thing instead of an immediate thing. So
Right.
it balances itself.
And the Life Cleric's ability is tied to the level of the spell you expend,
Right.
whereas this is a flat roll plus Wisdom modifier. So it's one of those things where it's like, playing a Ranger, I need Dex and Wisdom, which one do I want to invest in more? This might be a Ranger you want to put that higher Wisdom into, because if you don't prioritize it, you might have a +2 or 3 Wisdom at level 11,
Yeah.
or you could have a 4 or 5 if you put more investment into it by that point. So,
Yeah.
do yourself a favor and look to focus on that Wisdom a bit more.
And next, our last feature of this, in 15th level, Spirit of the Festival. You embody your uplifting, resilient spirit of the festival. And as a bonus action, you enter a state for 1 minute. During this 1 minute, you are immune to being frightened and have advantage on saving throws against being charmed. Whenever you make a saving throw, regardless of the type, you add your Wisdom modifier in addition. And when you are reduced to 0 hit points, you can instead use a reaction to drop to 1 instead. And once you use this, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. So this kind of goes back to your kind of selfish ranger, but it's level 15. You can have that as a treat. You've been helping your party for the entire campaign. You're about to go fight the big bad. Get a little selfish.
And, you know, if you can't live yourself, how are you going to support your allies?
True.
So it's important to remember, I can stay up on 1 HP, so I don't need to spend all this time prioritizing helping myself out, healing myself, or staying away from danger. I can be right there in the front lines, helping out, doing support, and if I'm about to go down, utilize that reaction, and you're good.
True. And now, it's time for the monk, the way of the falling leaf.
Preview. This one might be my favorite.
You ever want to play Spider-Man in D&D? Then you kind of have to ask the question of, he does a lot of punches, he runs on the wall, so probably a monk, but he's got gadgets, so do I go Artificer? If you read the comics, he's technically a Warlock. What do I do? This gives you an idea. The big thing with this one is you go up and you come down and you punch. And you deal extra punch damage from your falling damage.
One of the most not underutilized, but easily forgotten until it happens, monk abilities, is slow fall. The fact that you can reduce falling damage. If you aren't falling, it's pointless. This subclass is for those of you who want to use slow fall to your advantage.
Yeah. So one of the big ones, real quick, Leaf on the Wind. You have advantage on saving throws against being knocked prone. That's cool. That's one that's probably going to get forgotten a lot, unless you're fighting a bunch of like charging-based enemies. But the big one at level 3 is the Control Plummet. Whenever you fall at least 10 feet of your own volition, willingly, and land within range to make a melee attack against a creature, you can use your reaction to make a single melee attack against it, adding a d6 for every 10 feet maximum of your monk level. If your attack hits, you take no falling damage, and instead that gets pushed into your enemy. If you miss, you do take that falling damage because you just forgot slow fall.
Basically, this is you could use slow fall and just avoid the damage, or take a risk reward. If you do land that attack, you get to transfer that falling damage into an attack, and if you miss, no effects of slow fall proc, and you take the damage instead.
Yeah. The next one at level 6. Very
now, of
similar.
course, quick pause. We know at level 3 you don't have slow fall.
That's later.
You get it at level 4. We understand. This is hey, this ability gets better one level later. We didn't want to wait on adding this ability into level 6. It's a key ability of this subclass, so it's just here's the other option when you get to level 4.
Yeah. Level 6, very similar to the Dragon Monk of just, you use Step of the Wind, you can fly for that turn. The flying speed, you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed, so you can go up, fall, bam, punch. But in addition, when you do fly up, there is a kind of a small AoE effect that can deal a little bit of damage. So let's say you're surrounded by those 15 goblins again, and you, the monk, can fly up and deal just a little bit of damage, and then come down and punch at least one of them.
So just a little bit of small burst AoE from when you leave the ground.
Right. And at level 11, you can now fall with style, and for every 5 feet horizontal, you can move 10 feet vertically. Did I say that right?
I think you flipped it.
When you go up 10 feet, you can move horizontal 5 feet.
The whole point of this being, obviously, when you're falling, sometimes you're not going to have quite the movement you want to be to get next to where you can make that melee attack. So you go up, and then you fall at an angle to be able to hit the opponent who's over here rather than here where you were standing. Still be able to get that falling damage on him as well.
Or at this level, you can run up walls, so if you want to just run up to the wall and then push off and then, fall down a little to a specific angle again.
Right.
And then 17th level...
17th level.
Whenever you
Reading
use your Leaf on the Wind feature, so we're going back to that not falling prone, you regain hit points equal to your monk level. So this is kind of a happy way of being like, hey, remember that 3rd level feature you probably forgot, because we all have at least one of those we forget. If you do it, you gain hit points.
Consider it a leaf swirling in the wind. barely dodging this oncoming train, and now just get a little bit of healing out of it. So, I mean, that's the thing, right? A lot of low-level enemies like beasts have effects that'll knock you prone, and it kind of falls off towards later levels, except for some spells. And then once you start getting into bigger monsters, a lot of their base attacks just have an attempt to knock you prone because they are bigger than you.
Yeah.
So once again, it becomes handy again, and now, as that feature is useful, you also get extra bonuses with it, which is a nice way to tie it back in. And lastly...
It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, Great Pumpkin, where are you?
A new Warlock patron just dropped the Great Pumpkin himself.
One of the great things about Warlock is that there are options for every flavor. Mm-hmm. You have Celestials, you have Fiends, you have Aberrations, you have other things too.
Apple pie, pumpkin pie.
I don't think those are Warlocks.
They are now.
That's the whole point.
With the Great Pumpkin.
So far, there's yet to be a plant-focused Warlock. Well, you want plants?
Here it is.
We got plants.
Let's talk real quick. Their expanded spell list. First level, Good Berry and Entangle.
Grow plants. Make plants.
Second
Easy.
level, Bark Skin. Pass without trace.
Your plants. Pass without trace is fitting.
Third, Plant Growth. Speak with plants.
Plants.
Fourth level, Grasping Vine. Freedom of movement.
Plants. Pass without trace again, but it's not pass without trace. It's totally different, but it's kind of the same thing if you think about it.
Fifth, Tree Stride and Awaken.
Plants.
Plants, and animals.
Do you get the point?
That's right, the plant.
So starting at first level, you get the Pumpkin's Blessing. This gives you two options. You can only do one at a time. You get the Bountiful Heart, and you summon a big pumpkin and you throw it. You get the Bountiful Harvest, so until the end of your next turn, creatures of your choice within 30 feet regain 1d6 plus your Charisma modifier hit points. Then you have the Mischievous Snare. The pumpkin bursts into a blinding flash, and creatures within 15 feet must succeed on a Constitution saving throw equal to your spell save DC, or be blind until the end of your next turn. This is obviously for those 15 little goblins. Once your monk friend has gone up, you can just blind them all real quick.
It's funny that you mentioned that specific creature type, because the Bountiful Harvest is a nice little AoE healing. That's cool.
Yeah.
And the other one is the Green Goblin's Pumpkin Bombs.
It's true. If you want more pumpkin bombs, there is a pumpkin bomb magic item in this document.
Whoa! You should go check it out.
6th level Harvest Ward. Your patron bestows a protected charm to you. Whenever a creature within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to grant them resistance to that instance of damage. You can use this feature a number of times with your Charisma modifier. So let's say your friend gets hit with a fireball. You can just say, I'm going to give my friend who's about to die fire resistance. And they might stay up and be able to do some more things.
And one of the funny little quirks of this is that generally Warlocks get an okay amount of AoE spells on their own.
Yeah.
You could always just cast an AoE spell that happens to have one of your friends in the area, but it's okay because you used your reaction to give them resistance to the damage.
It's true. In that way, it is similar to Sculpt Spell or the one that sorcerers get. But just a little, it's not quite on the same level where you're just saying they get cut out entirely. Then you get, at 10th level, the Autumn Veil. Your patron's connection wraps you in an ethereal veil. You gain resistance to necrotic damage. And when a creature makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on that roll. But this is also, you have to summon this feature, so once you use it, you have to wait until a short or a long rest.
Right.
So, and then at 14th level, you can, once again as a bonus action, you can become ethereal, gaining the following benefits. Flying speed of 30 feet. You move through other creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, and you take 1d10 force damage if you and your turn inside an object like a crate, a barrel, a wall, a person.
Well,
Not that people are objects.
but they are people,
In D&D, they technically count as objects sometimes.
if they're dead.
Or unconscious.
I think it's mainly just a...
You've run into it before where it's like, we've had to ask the question, is this unconscious body an object that I can just not have to worry about teleport with?
I'm pretty sure the official rules is no, it's still a person until they're dead.
Anyway, you also have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that are not ethereal. So you can turn into a ghost and attack people, use your Eldritch Blast, for instance, and just have advantage on those attack rolls. And this can't be used once, or can be used once. You have to use or finish a long rest. This is not recharge on a short rest.
Yeah, a little bit too strong to be getting more often than once per day.
Yeah, no, just sit, going through the dungeon. I use this. Oh, can we take a nap real quick so I can get that back? Mm-hmm. This is the long rest thing. And then lastly, that's 14th level, so that's your last unique Warlock Patron ability that you get. But I did create 2 unique invocations that are inspired by this.
You've probably seen it if you do some browsing homebrew of your own, that with all the invocations there are some that have prerequisites of level, some that have prerequisites of your pact feature, but there aren't really any that have prerequisites of being a specific subclass or patron.
Not anymore.
But a lot of homebrew have that, and we wanted to tap into that too.
So we have 2. Pumpkin's Light, prerequisite of Pact of the Tome. Book of Shadows is engraved with a light of a jack-o'-lantern, and this book sheds bright light for 15 feet and dim for another 15. So kind of like a flashlight. And the next one is Veil of Leaves, prerequisite 9th level, Great Pumpkin. You can cast Gaseous Form on yourself at will without expending a spell slot or material components. You do instead transform into a vortex of leaves, not a ghost or gas.
Yeah.
But that does it for our 5 of the 7 we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. But like we said, there are 2 other that are inside of the document. There's the Eclipsed Veil Paladin and the Autumn Mantle Druid, if you want to go check those out, along with some autumn-themed feats, magic items, anything else that I'm forgetting?
Feats, magic items, and
You said those.
a couple of races.
Whoa. Races?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There are such classic autumn themes like the Pumpkin Bomb, the Pumpkin Spice Latte, the Turkey Spear. Those are all things that are in this homebrew. Now, of course, always ask your dungeon master before you take these.
Right.
And these are meant to be, some of these are meant to be more silly. Some are a bit more, they can be made for a serious campaign. But as always, it's up to you and your dungeon master.
Remember, even if the magic item seems a little silly, that's what Autumn's about. Flavor.
It's true.
And with that, I think it's time to remember that putting all of that together, well, that's just whack.
See you next time.